folks, I just wanted to jump in and let you know you've probably heard of the 5-day deal. It's a charity that I help out each year that brings the photo community together. A bunch of photographers put courses into a bundle that then the public can buy at a ridiculous discount, raising money for some great charities. It's about to go live again. I'll have details below on the exact dates. It's an amazing deal as usual. I've already had a look at who the different contributors are, and it's a great deal. If you've ever picked it up in the past, it's always new every year. No single course is ever repeated, and it's as good of a deal as ever in terms of the value you're getting. So you can click through now and check it out. If it's not live yet, you can at least register your interest. But from the 11th to the 21st is when you're going to be able to pick up the deal itself. I have a couple of great things in there, and if you use my link, I have an extra secret bonus for you guys. It's raising money for some incredible charities centered around kids and kind of homelessness. So I hope you'll get on board, bring the community together for a nice win-win, get a great deal, and support some great charities. Please check out the details below. Hi folks, this is what $18,000 in binoculars looks like. Crazy. I may never financially recover from this video. I've gotten in some of the top 10x42 binoculars on the market to compare here. We're going to go through from, again, a photographer's perspective, looking at the optics, the ergonomics, the handling. And no, I'm not a binoculars expert. Actually, I think it's my outsider status that may help in this review. So I'm staying away from the forums and what the general consensus is on these. And I'm going into them, testing them out, and sharing with you my personal opinion on how these guys perform. Now, if you're new to binoculars, you might want to check out my photographer's guide to binoculars that I put on YouTube a couple of weeks ago. That run you through all of the fundamentals. So let me just introduce what we have here. It's basically the flagships from all of the big brands. We have the Leica Noctavid 10x42s, the Swarovski NL Pure 10x42s, the Zeiss Victory SFT Star 10x42s, the Vortex Razor UHD 10x42s, and then an outlier in the pack. Nikon make dozens of different models under $1,000, then they make one pair over that, which are over $6,000. These are their WX Ranger binoculars. These are actually a 10x50, and you can see they're like double the size and triple the weight of something like the Leicas. Now, I've actually been testing the Nikons for about a month already. Before the Swarovskis came in, I had the rest of these and the Nikon HG Monarch 10x42s. They're premium under this pair in the range, and compared them all. Whilst I love the Nikons, they did perform great, they're simply not at this level. So we've already returned them, and we're sticking to these kind of $2,000–$3,000 plus models. And I can already tell you, there's so much variation between them. You might think it's going to all end up being kind of similar, but everything varies on them, even the ergonomics. So it's actually going to be, I think, quite a complicated thing to review. I'll do my best to summarize it for you and give you clear findings in the conclusion. Now, this video was filmed in and around Hong Kong, but I'm frequently off leading different photo tours around the world. If you want to see more about where I'm headed to next, head on over to mattgranger.com and sign up to the mailing list. Link below. So when I was looking at the binoculars, I'm thinking about the quality of light and how in good light, by that I mean soft light, but a lot of it, there's not that big of a difference. But as soon as it starts to get hard and contrasty or backlit or reflections, the cheaper ones just show problems straight away. But here it is still soft light, but it's backlit and it's really glary and contrasty. Looking at this bird on top of the sign here, gosh, the Leicas have so much chromatic aberration, it's kind of shocking. And all these have multiple levels below them, but these are the flagships. And the Noctavids just have like purple fringing for days. And the Zeiss, in this tricky situation, there's still a bit, but it's so much better controlled. Like in this situation, it's not I need to be a nerd to notice it. Everyone would notice it, but much less with the Zeiss. Well done, Germans. Now, your buying decision is going to be driven by what you shoot and what you prioritize, but I think for a lot of people, the closest focus is an issue. And I found that two things came up. One, the specs on B&H's website for the Vortexes are wrong, but two, what the manufacturer state just didn't seem to be right. So we've come out now with a couple of light stands and the tape measure to get it exactly right. Now, binoculars, it's measured from the front glass, your front lens objective. So I'm going to line that up with this light stand to this light stand, measure the distance and see how close each one's able to focus. And we'll do it in order of what the website says. Plus we've got the Nikon WX monster ones to test last of all. Okay, so first off, the Nikon Monarch HGs, this say that they will focus down to 2 meters. That's exactly what we have this set up for right now. So let's line the front objective up here. And, well, I can tell you they're definitely focusing closer than that. So let's see. It's around about here. Yep, so I'm in focus right there. And that is 1 meter 65, not 2 meters. So the big difference between these and say the Zeiss's was that they would do 1.5 meters and these were 2 meters, but actually it's 1.65. Why would the manufacturer say that it's longer than it is? I don't get it. Next up, the Leicas say they will do 1.9 meters. So let's see how they do at 165. Well, they're actually slightly further back. Yeah, so they're also outperforming what they say, but they say they're shorter than Nikon, but they're actually longer. They're 169. Now, Zeiss say 152, so again, we'll just start off where we're at. And yeah, they're definitely closer than that, so let's see, where did they get it? Right about there. Ooh, okay. Zeiss are 149, so they're actually right on the money. They said 1.50 meters, these are 1.49 meters. Next up, the Vortex, and these are actually wrong on B&H's website. Their website says 1.01 meters, so like twice as close as the Nikon and Leicas. But going to Vortex's own website, they say 1.37. So still, it should be noticeably closer than the others. So one thing to note, these focus in the opposite direction of every other pair. They're the Sony of the bunch. So let's see. So will they also outperform their specification? I mean, they're definitely the closest of the bunch. Okay, it's right about there. Am I happy with that? Yes. So that is 1.27.5. So again, outperforming their expectation. So all but the Zeiss were off, but they were all better than they say they'll be. The Nikon by a huge margin. Next up, the Swarovski NL Pures 10x42. They say a closest focus of 2 meters or 6 foot 6 inches. Let's have a little look here. A little closer than this. Okay, right around there. And by my testing, that's actually pretty spot on, about 6'5", 1 meter 96, 97. So interesting that the Vortex, which is the second cheapest in the mix, focuses the closest. What if we bring in the Nikon WXs? These are monstrous things that you focus each eyepiece individually. What are they going to be able to do? Well, according to the website, 20 meters closest focus. So forget about getting any detail shots on birds. Let's see, we've pre-measured a little bit. So let's just put this guy back. And then let's see how far it is. Well, 20 meters should be, I don't know. I really don't know. So I've got them at their nearest. The funny thing is, when you're so far away, you actually have a bigger depth of field, so it's a little bit hard to tell, but this certainly isn't 20 meters. But what is it? Okay, no. Please don't fall over backwards with this small car worth of binoculars in my hands. So it's hard to say. There's a good foot in sharp focus, but I would say, well, if we're saying closest, then I got to go for like what is acceptably sharp. So I would say about here. Okay, so let's measure it. Okay, is this right? I mean, you can't get around it. It's in focus. And that is 8 meters and 23 centimeters. So nothing like 20 meters. So I really just don't get it. These are meant, maybe that's where it's at critical focus, but I don't think so. So if that's 8, 20 is gonna be, what, way back here? So what, this would be maybe double, so like 16. And no, it's not in focus. So it's not that the whole zone is, the specification is just way, way off. Hello, little puppy. So that's crazy. The cheaper Nikons at $1,000. Crazy that I'm now talking about cheaper being 1,000. The cheaper ones are like 17% closer. They said 2 meters, but they're 1.65 meters. These ones said 20 meters, but they're like 65% closer or something at 8 meters 30, whatever it was. That's insanity. And I guess it just goes to show there is a value of seeing a real world review instead of going off the spec sheet, because except for the Zeiss, they were all wrong. The $1,000 Nikon said 2 meters, they were 1.65 meters. The $3,000 Leicas said 1.9, and they were even closer than the Nikons. Zeiss said 1.5 meters, they were 1.49. The Vortex said something like 1.37 meters, and they were 1.27 meters or something. And then these said 20 meters, and they were 8.3 meters or so. So kind of goes to show that it is worth checking out a real world review, because what the manufacturer and the website says isn't always right. Interesting that they undersell the specs in the bino world. In the camera world, they tend to oversell it. If you're also into photography, check out learn.mattgranger.com. I have a bunch of different photography courses, including guides for setting up different camera systems. Link is in my link tree. I think, unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye to the Monarch HGs. They're great, and if it were my money, they would be serious contenders, but they just can't keep up with these $2,000-$3,000 pairs. In soft, full light, like in the day but diffused, they work great, but as soon as it gets contrasty or backlit or lots of reflections, they're the first to obviously fall apart before the Vortex, the Leica, and the Zeiss ones. So they're great. Thank you to B&H for sending them out, but we'll feature these in another $1,000 Showdown rather than putting them up against these behemoths. Okay, it's been a hot, fun, crazy couple of days, actually weeks, testing these guys out. I'll just go through it by binocular rather than by category. I've broken out 5 different metrics that I think were insightful. I'll tell you, it's kind of hard because like giving something an 8 versus a 9 doesn't mean it's 12% better. I'm just trying to put them in order so you can be clear. Think about what your preferences are, that ergonomics and close focus are most important for you, or just image quality is important for you, and then look at the ranking. And I should say that these are all absolutely outstanding binoculars, the absolute best on the market. So when I'm giving something like a 7, that's not because it's average. This is like 10 is perfection, and I need to segment them somehow. So first off, the Leicas. First category being in the hand. How are they to use? How's the ergonomics? Basically, how's my hands experience using these? They're relatively small. They're quite dense. They're a bit heavy. I don't find the shape terribly ergonomic, but the resistance on the wheel is really good. But as I mentioned, I think I found it really annoying with a close eye point that I couldn't really hold them. I had to keep opening them to be able to grip it safely, and then that moves it, so then I have to readjust everything when I want to go
look through them. So I gave them an 8.5 on that metric. For close focus, these really aren't great. I gave them a 7 out of 10. Magnification, these do really well. I gave them a 9 out of 10. Image quality, these are really good, bright and contrasty, but they're up against some crazy competition here. I give them an 8.5 out of 10. For eye comfort, I'm giving them an 8. But for me, I really didn't find it very comfortable. I just couldn't find a setting where I didn't keep seeing the black circles, whereas with the others, I didn't really have that issue. These were, for my eyes, one of the worst. In terms of packaging and what's in the box, Leica do a fantastic job with their cameras, but I would say in this bunch, it was nothing that stood out, 8 out of 10. Next up, the Swarovskis, and these have by far the most interesting design. I found them super comfortable. I do find that the wheel is a little bit looser than I'd like, but I'm giving them a 9.5 out of 10 despite that flaw, so that tells you just how ergonomic and nice these are to be in your hand. In terms of close focus, these also weren't great. I actually gave these a 6, trailing the Leicas. Magnification, kind of middle of the pack, 8. Image quality, they're fantastic. These are raved about. Even as a non-binocular guy, I knew why. I'm giving these a 9 out of 10. I think they're exceptional. Honestly, all of them here are exceptional, but 9 out of 10 for image quality. Eye comfort, also 9 out of 10. It was pretty easy to get a great position on these ones, I have to say, and being that you could carry them like this, despite my little rat eyes being so close together, was really nice. The packaging and what comes in the box, the packaging was outstanding. I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10, despite it not coming with harnesses or lots of accessories. What it comes with is really well thought out. But if you want the eye relief, the forehead rest, I think it's like another $150, $200 for that piece of metal. Next up, the Zeiss. And this might surprise people, but for me, in the hand, these are a 9.5 out of 10. So the best of the bunch. I found them really comfortable, despite being bigger than the Leicas and kind of a lot of the others. They're the lightest, and the gap there, I just personally found really ergonomic. Even though the body doesn't have much in the way of contours, I found them really nice, and the resistance on the wheel, pretty much perfect. Close focus on these guys, I'm giving an 8. They do pretty well in the scheme here. In terms of magnification, 9.5. I was seeing things pretty much the biggest on these guys. Image quality, 9. I'm actually giving them matching with the Swarovskis, even though they're not as vivid color. In the most challenging situations, there was still just no fringing. To the edge, the image quality was just fantastic. In terms of eye relief, I also found these, I think, the best in the bunch. I'll give these a 9.5. In terms of packaging, I'm kind of torn on this. I don't know, 8.5 or 9. I'll say 8.5. It doesn't come with that much stuff, but the packaging is elegant. It's not a huge over-the-top box, but then the pouch it comes with seems like really good quality. So yeah, let's go with 8.5. Could go up to a 9 on that. Now, the Chunk Master Generals. These really should be in their own category. In terms of in the hand, I'm still giving them an 8, despite them being so ridiculous, because they just feel so incredibly well built, and the center of gravity is great, that gravity is really doing its job, and you just need to support underneath. You're not like having a wrist workout trying to support them. The tactile experience on the focus is fantastic, but cumbersome. Trying to get focus of the eyes individually was not a fun process, especially for birding. Close focus, I'm giving them a 5. And I kind of feel conflicted on that. If you're talking about astro, then it's totally fine. They can be an 8 or 9. But for general use, having such a long closest focus, it precludes you using them on most subjects. Magnification, I'm giving an 8. Now, if you equalize all of these to this one's minimum closest focus, then the magnification's really good. But the fact that you can't focus very close means that you can't really get things like small birds up really big in their frame. Image quality is where these get a big bump in score, 10 out of 10. I don't think I've ever given something a 10 out of 10, but I just can't find a flaw with them. They're unbelievable. Even with my most primo camera lenses, there's always a but. These are just incredible. Edge to edge, any shooting situation, perfect. I never saw any aberration. They may have ruined me. Eye comfort, I'm also going to give a 10. The adjustment on these is fantastic. Because you've got 10x50s on these, the exit pupil is huge. They were just really comfortable apart from individually focusing them. So some big swings on this one, some 5s and some 10s. Just look at this guy. It's a crate in a box, and it actually came in an extra 4th shipping box. Getting this guy out, what a monster. This is like what they used to ship the telephoto lenses in. Super sturdy. This thing's gonna outlive an apocalypse, and you'll note it comes with the tripod mount and carry bags. 10 out of 10, ridiculous. Vortex, in the hand, I'm giving them an 8.5. They feel solidly built. They're a little heavy, but they are ergonomic. They have some little cutouts for your fingers. I would actually have given them a 9, but why? There's always one. Why have the focus reversed of every other brand in the market? It's quite frustrating. Unless you're only using one brand, then that's not an issue, but I'll give them 8.5 for in the hand. Close focus on these was the best, 9 out of 10. Magnification, 7.5, wasn't that great actually. It seems a bit wider and your subjects are a bit smaller. Image quality, 7.5. There were some obvious flaws when you're comparing it to these super primo ones, but they're still outstanding. If you're coming from a sub $1,000 pair, you're gonna be blown away by these. Just not when you put them up against ones that are twice the price, so that's fair enough. And eye comfort, 8.5, easy adjustments, not at the same level as the Zeiss and the Swarovski or the Nikons, but they were still perfectly usable. Now for the Vortex, first thing I noticed, the box is kind of splitting already on the sides. That's not such a big deal. This one came with a harness, which is quite handy if you're going to be using these all day. Nice little value addition. The aesthetic they have is very military-esque, which I don't personally dig, but if you do, then it's a great look. The only thing I found closing the bag, I often was knocking the eye cup covers off. It's not personally my taste, so I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Now, I can tally up those and give you total scores out of 50, but I just wanna say, I wouldn't really recommend saying, okay, so this one got a higher overall score, that's the one I should get. Because for me, ergonomics and close focus are really, really important, followed by overall image quality. But, you know, having one like the Leicas, I love so much about them, but the fact that I just can't get a nice eye point on them pretty much rules them out for me. And the Zeiss, despite not having some of the features of the others, actually really shone for me in some ways that I find really important. Likewise, the Swarovskis. So, total scores. Should we do this in kind of reverse order? The Vortex, 41 out of 50. The Nikon WX, actually 41 out of 50 again, but they just shine in completely different ways. Surprisingly, the Leica, I'm also giving 41 out of 50. The Swarovskis, 42 out of 50. And who would have expected it? Actually, the Zeiss for me came out on top at 45 out of 50. Now you remember those Nikon HG Monarchs that I had that I returned early? I had also rated them and they actually came up as a 40, so not too far behind the pack. So if you want to stay under $1,000, great option. If you want to go higher in image quality is your focus, lots of options. If you have really deep pockets and you want to look at faraway objects, then you can't go wrong with these. If you're so fortunate to be near a camera store that has some, I can't recommend strongly enough going out and trying them in your hand, because what works for my eye and my hands and my taste most likely won't work for you. So I hope you found that useful, kind of an outsider's review of the Super Primo binoculars. I'd love to hear what you're shooting with. I'd love to hear what you're looking with, viewing with, observing with, and how you find them, and maybe what's next on your shopping list. Cheers guys, I'll see you soon. Now if anyone is thinking about buying a pair of these but can't justify the price, but you want to help me out by giving me like the affiliate commission, I think I get like 3%, so if you just want to send me the $200 or whatever it works out, I'll put my Venmo below.